Well, okay, in the spirit of just documenting what's going on in this odyssey that I've got going here, I'm back to shooting a Noreen after our excursion off into La La Land with that 277 case, finding out whether or not the 277 case is applicable to the 6x47 Lapua. And that's all an interesting thing. What we have established is that this new SIG case takes tremendous pressure. Whether you feel comfortable with that in a rifle system, whether this is for you, whether this isn't about you. This is about what I do, what I'm doing, So I got three things on my mind today. Actually, I got two things on my mind and one thing that happened. About 1 o'clock this morning, I was out here last night and doing this and doing that and gearing up for shooting the Noreen, had the lights on down on the range, and we'll get to that in just a minute. But for right now, I want to talk about something that we've touched on, we've alluded to, we've talked about, but I've come to a point. My problem when I'm testing stuff, my problem when I'm rating, my problem when I'm baselining, my problem on every step of my way is to find a baseline. One of the first times I did that was when I couldn't decide whether I could shoot or not. I couldn't decide whether or not it was me or the gun or the wind or the gremlins. I finally went out and ordered a BR gun. That opened a lot of doors. That opened a lot of avenues. That opened a lot of my mind. The light started to glow. I found out I didn't have a foggy clue what accuracy was. Nor what went into it. Nor was anybody of any help. I talked to dozens of people and they said, well, there's 11 things that I do when I build a gun, invariably. And they are absolutely unbreakable rules. But I don't know which ones are important, which ones I could skip, which ones are effective. I just know that I do these 11 things. Same thing is true of reloading. You get guys that say, well, when I go out and tune, I do this. You know, I do these 9 things. I don't know which ones are important, but I know. So Harold Vaughn introduced me to the idea of isolating variables. That's what I've spent my time trying to do. And the variables that we're isolating right now are one of the things that we've been back and forth about and people talk about. There's just a couple builds on the internet right now that are shooting really good on Benchrest Central. And the subject of where the balance comes up. Balance, balance, balance. Balance at the front of the action ring. Balance 2 inches in front of the action ring. Balance on the recoil lug. Balance, balance, balance. I don't have a baseline. I've been thinking about this. And I'm starting back into 50 BMG, which is what I'm having fun with now because I'm using it to exacerbate the problems. Basically, if I can make a 50 BMG shoot, everything else falls into line. And it makes the problems big enough that they show up. Things like torque, bounce, bags, what's important, and I'm finally getting to the point with my 50 BMGs where they're all, except for the Noreen, I've got bugs ironed out, they're up, they're running, the scope mounting is, these things are hard on stuff. They point out all kind of problems that something else might mask. If your scope's going to move, I'm still not convinced, for instance, that my March Genesis is robust. This little setup right here is one I was building earlier in the series. Got a bunch of stuff going on with this. It's got a big glued on thing on here because the original barrel, this is one of my original, this is now dotting, it's shooting just fine. And I'm using it to illustrate that I just set the balance right here at about the front of the action ring. But I've decided with this 50 BMG project, I'm going to take it a little further. I'm going to start playing my baseline, my starting point on balance is going to be that point at which the bullet enters, the ogive of the bullet contacts the lands. The point of the lead. That's a finite point. And the reason I'm going there, logical or not, is not important to me. What's important to me is that we have to have a baseline. We have to start somewhere. And where I've decided I'm going to start is where the bullet itself contacts the rifling lands as they come down to it, on the actual lead. That's going to be a finite point that I'm going to call 0. And I'm going to balance fore and after that. Every gun, every length, every size, I'm going to pretend that what this gun is like a dog shaking a bone. It's like a bone in the teeth of a pit bull or a lizard that they're shaking, a thing they're trying. You grab it where it balances and then you shake the crap out of it. When this gun fires, there's tremendous forces shaking it. I can convince myself in my head that it's hubris upon a person that where the bullet starts its flight, the point of origination of the movement of the bullet might be the null spot, might be the spot one would want to keep there. Well, this end of the gun shakes, this end of the gun shakes, the gun pivots around this. We know that it's somewhere there, but some guys, hunting guns are different than target guns, are different than long range guns, but there's some things that come together. Bigger, longer bullets are normally out ahead. So I'm putting this together and I'm thinking, how about I just use that point where the bullet starts and let it, as the, you know, if it starts shaking back here, the bullet's back here. Anyway, that's something I wanted to share with you. That's new. I'm going to start balancing all my firearms of all sizes and all lengths and all power factors. Because the one thing I am really finding out about these 50 BMGs is they're nothing but a PPC. They're the same thing as everything else. The rules don't change. The problems just get bigger. When something goes wrong, it goes wrong. It's noticeable. So yesterday, just change the subject back a little bit here. Yesterday, I was pulling apart a bunch of belt ammunition. And I thought, you know, some of you might find this interesting. Some of you may decide that this is a cheap way to buy ammo, because it is. So in that light, in that case, I was pulling one of my belts apart, because I get these in belts of 100 or something. And these are a little hard. I've used screwdrivers, I've drilled holes in boards and punched them. I don't really care about saving anything. I'm just trying to get the brass and get into primed brass quickly. And I just started using this method, and it's working. And these just go on the floor. You just pull these out of here with a big pair of pliers. And for illustration purposes, I'm doing it on a table. But the rules, as I understand them, and I'm no expert at this, but you grab the back of this with a padded pair of pliers, and you turn it, and in one direction it turns and spins free quite easily, and in another direction it tends to lock. But while you've watched, I took these last 4 off of this belt. And I just figured, in case anybody else is playing with 50 BMG and is cheap like I am and wants a way to get cheap LC cases, I don't know if this is applicable or effective or in any way good. Now we're going to have to drive for a while I'm explaining what I did with this Lake City brass. Basically, I'm at a point where I need to spend some time, I am spending time, shooting, balancing, tuning, doing the things one does with rifles as one is getting them to shoot well. Finding out what they can and cannot do. And that has been what I'm doing with these 50s. And I just wanted to come out here and show you. And I'm sorry, I'm wandering along behind this thing. I have no idea what you're even seeing here. I don't know. I just had to come and show you this. Because about 1 o'clock this morning, I decided it was time to pull the trigger on a couple of these. And I forgot. This is the Noreen. It's never really been put through the paces. Boy, it's bright out there. I'm sorry about that. I don't know if I can get it to function any better. Get a better... This is pretty. Where am I? I'm gonna have to go through the... But what I want you to focus on is that window in the foreground. That I know I can get onto. And I'm going to have to tear this place all apart. There's going to be a little break in my movements here. Because I forgot that when I built the Noreen, when I made that muzzle brake out there, I don't even know if you can see that muzzle brake. I'm talking away here about that muzzle brake, and I don't even know if this thing shows what that muzzle brake is. But anyway, that was a muzzle brake I built that I called the big block. Because I pictured that with these short 24-inch barrels, I'd get flames blowing out the end and blowing out the side. So I put stacks on this thing. I put risers up through the middle for carbs and angled out stacks. And I figured that when she blows flames, well, even shooting in the dark, they don't blow flames. So that turned out, I took the stacks off of it, but when I built that brake out there, I milled out and I left a little flare on the end. Understand, I hate the feel of getting hit in the face with a grave spade. And I hate the fact that you can't shoot these out the window because they'll shatter the window. So I set mine at 90 degrees for that reason, so that I can shoot them and it goes out and it blasts sideways. Not quite as effective as if you get it to turn back, but effective enough if you make them big enough. But Noreen hadn't been fired out my window yet. And understand, the window had been broke before. The outside was already pretty well splattered on it. I had it all taped up. And after midnight today, I came out and I was getting... And I wasn't at my highest, my peak of efficiency, let's say. So I came groggering on out here and opened the window, turned on the lights, and set the Noreen up. Set it up. This is where it was sitting. It's a foot outside the window. That was completely covered, top to bottom, taped up. This inner window here is a mover. See, this is the open and close portion of the window. It's got so much glass jammed down in there right now. But it was kind of cute because I came out here all eared up and eyed up and ready to go. And I pulled the trigger and I got glass on top of my head. This stuff comes down, cascades across the bench and goes down onto the floor down below. And it was a tinkling Christmas show. It was funnier than all get out. Blew all of that, you can see that stuff out there kind of waving in the wind. That was all flat up. It blew a hole right through the window, shattered the glass all over me. There's glass all the way down through into this side. And I decided, you know what? It's 1 o'clock in the morning. And I'm not going to clean this up today. So I waited till the sun lifted up out of here because this is facing into the sunrise. And I just figured, in the spirit of sharing is caring, I'm going to go ahead and don't know if anything
if I had a zoom, I could go up and down a range and I could show you what's going on out there and stuff, and it doesn't matter. I just have to come in here now and clean up glass for a while because the old Noreen had just enough backblast. It's still not hitting me in the face. I figured it carefully because I didn't want it hitting me in the face. So I just set it up in such a way that I need to get lined up so I don't drive on my cord while I pull back out of here. Anyway, I thought I'd come out here and show you all the fun I had just yesterday. There's the rest of the guns, the 50s there, lined up and ready to go. Figured before just boring you driving back through here, I'd show you what my testing regimen is here. So I'm going to be, I've worked through all the bugs I feel on these to where I can now start doing what I've been threatening to do, which is start really running them all through the paces. And in the case of the Noreen again, I'm going to see if this will illustrate again one more time what I'm talking about balance. I got to pull it out of that window anyway because it's, don't know if this will, but this old girl, oops, got some sharp points on it. I'm balancing it right where the end of the cartridge, right in the throat, let's say. And that way I can play with it on the bags, where it sits. I can do all the things. I've got it 5 inches wide. I got Delrin rails. I got tape on there by the gallon. And I'm starting into a different phase where I'm going to be testing, I guess, the applications of balance, where to balance, how to balance. And I just wanted to throw that out. I just wanted to let people know that that's going to be my new starting point. I don't know if it's logical. I don't know if it's anything. I just know that I've got to shut my brain off for a while to clean up this mess I made. So I figured to document my mental regimen up till now, bring up the idea of balancing in case anybody else wants to look into this. And the nice thing about balancing on the interface of the ogive, on the spot where the bullet is locked, is that if you've got a long case, in my case I've got some platforms, this one that I call the Thing is set up, I've got PPC and BR barrels for it, for testing that it works. Then I've got by 47 barrels, several of them. I've got 6 by 47. I've got 6 Creedmoor barrels for it. I've got 30 by 47. And then by reaching over and grabbing another gun and just swapping out bolts, I can go up all the way up to 338 Hellbringer. I've got 338 Lapuas, I mean not Lapuas, WSMs for it. I've got a competitive, when I say competitive, I mean my aim is to make it a competitive 600 yard, 16 pound, 300 WSM on a known paradigm that I use on 2 other guns. And I can adjust my weight so that each one of those, as these changes in cartridges occur and lengths occur, that throat portion, that ogive intersection with the lance portion moves up and down the barrel. But it's not hard to adjust the balance back or forth or the position in the bags back or forth. So whether I be shooting a 6 PPC or a 6 by 47 or a 300 WSM, or even as long as the Hellbringer case, which is sticking way out there, I can adjust that balance point. Now I'm going to go for a while, a year or two, see how it works, and find out, does balancing the system right smack on that intersection where the bullet is stopped while the bone gets shaken around? That's my thought. Take it or leave it. Go use it. Just throwing it out there in case anybody's interested. Enjoy the day.